I never thought my life would turn out this way. I was just a normal girl, in love, excited to build a future with the man I thought was my everything. When he asked me to marry him, I said yes without hesitation. We were young, we were in love, and then suddenly I found out I was pregnant. My world spun out of control, but at the same time I was happy. I thought maybe this was our blessing. Maybe this was our chance to prove to everyone that we were meant to be. But behind the smiles, behind the promises, there was something I did not see coming. Something that almost destroyed everything I was holding on to. My fiancé had a secret addiction that he confessed to me only after I had already given my heart to him. It was not drugs. It was not alcohol. It was something darker, something that made me question whether love and trust could survive. There were nights I cried myself to sleep. Mornings I woke up wondering if I was making the biggest mistake of my life, and moments when I almost walked away. But then I would feel my baby kicking inside me and I knew I had to make a choice. Stay and fight for love, or walk away and raise this child alone. This is my story. And if you think you know how it ends, you might be wrong. My name is Elias Smith, and I never thought that my life would turn out this way. When I first met my fiancé, everything felt like a dream come true. I was 25 years old, and I had gone through my fair share of heartbreaks, disappointments, and nights crying myself to sleep, wondering if love was ever meant for me. Then suddenly, he appeared in my life. He was 29, mature, confident, and he carried himself in a way that made me feel safe. From the very beginning, he told me that he had made mistakes in the past. He admitted that he had struggled with things, but he assured me that he was working on becoming a better man. I wanted to believe him. And honestly, at that time I did. Everything between us moved quickly. We started dating in February, and within weeks, it felt like we had known each other for years. He treated me better than anyone else had ever treated me. He made me feel special, protected, and deeply loved. That was something I had craved for so long. After all the pain from past relationships, I thought God had finally sent me someone who was different. Someone who would not hurt me the way others did. Then just a short while later, we found out that I was pregnant. It was not planned. We were not even married yet. At first, I was scared out of my mind. How would my family react? How would his family react? Would people judge us? But when he held me close and told me that he was ready to be a father, that we would face everything together, I felt my fears begin to fade away. I told myself that love and family were stronger than judgment and whispers. I chose to believe in us. But as the weeks passed, little cracks began to show. I started noticing things, small things that at first seemed meaningless, but later they added up. He would spend hours on his phone or laptop. Sometimes late at night, while I was lying beside him, he would turn the screen away quickly as if he did not want me to see. When I asked him what he was doing, he would brush it off with a laugh and say it was nothing. I wanted to trust him. I wanted to believe him. But deep down, something inside me felt uneasy. One evening, my world shifted completely. I had borrowed his laptop because I needed to check something for work. I did not go looking for anything. I did not snoop. But when I opened the browser, the tabs were right there. I froze. My heart sank. It was not just one website. It was a trail of them. And it was not just random videos. There were private chat rooms, subscriptions, and even live streams with women he was paying to watch. I cannot explain what that moment felt like. My chest tightened. I could not breathe. My stomach turned and I thought I was going to throw up. I felt betrayed, shattered, and humiliated all at once. I sat there staring at the screen, my hands shaking, and all I could think was, why? Why would he do this when he has me? When we are building a family together? When he came home that night, I confronted him. I tried to stay calm, but my voice was shaking. I told him what I had seen. At first he tried to deny it. He said it was old. He said it did not mean anything. He said it was just a bad habit. But the more I pressed him, the more the truth came out. He admitted that he had been struggling with this addiction for years. He said it started long before he met me. He swore he wanted to stop, that he hated himself for it, that it was not about me or our relationship. But how could it not be about me? How could it not matter? I am carrying his child. I am building a life with him. I am giving him everything I have, and yet he is giving his time, his money, and his attention to strangers on a screen. I felt like I was not enough. I felt like I was competing with something I could never compete with. That night, I cried myself to sleep while he lay beside me in silence. I wanted to scream. I wanted to pack my bags and leave. But then I thought of the baby growing inside of me. I thought of the future I wanted for my child. I thought of how much I loved him, despite what I had discovered. And that broke me even more because love should never hurt this much. The days after that were a blur. He kept apologizing. He kept promising that he would change. He said he would seek help, that he would delete everything, that he would prove to me he was serious about us. But every time he picked up his phone or turned on his laptop, my heart sank. Trust does not come back just because someone says sorry. Trust does not heal just because someone promises. Trust takes time. And in that moment, I was not sure I had the strength to give him that time. I looked in the mirror and did not recognize myself. My eyes were swollen from crying. My smile had disappeared. My excitement for the baby had been replaced with fear and uncertainty. And the hardest part of all was that I felt completely alone. I could not tell my family. I could not tell my friends. I did not want anyone to see him the way I saw him now. I wanted to protect him, even when he was the one who had broken me. And that is when I realized something painful. I was protecting him, but who was protecting me? Who was holding me while I cried myself to sleep? Who was reminding me that I deserved better? I had lost myself somewhere in the process of loving him. That is where part 1 of my story ends. This is only the beginning, but I want you to know something. If you have ever felt broken by someone you loved, if you have ever cried yourself to sleep wondering if you should stay or leave, then you are not alone. My story is proof of that. When I found out I was pregnant, I thought that was already the scariest part of my journey. But nothing compared to the day our families discovered the truth. It happened suddenly. I had not planned to tell them so soon, but secrets have a way of slipping out, especially when you are carrying a life inside you. My body was changing faster than I expected. The morning sickness, the fatigue, the way my clothes no longer fit the same. My mother noticed. One evening, while I was sitting at the kitchen table trying to force down a bowl of soup, she looked at me and asked a question that made my heart stop. "Aaliyah, are you pregnant?" Her voice was sharp, almost accusing, as if she already knew the answer but wanted to hear it from me. My hands trembled. My throat went dry. For a moment I considered lying, but what would be the point? I nodded slowly, my eyes filling with tears. The silence that followed was deafening. My father, who had been sitting in the living room, overheard. He walked in, his face pale, his jaw tight. He stared at me like I was a stranger. The disappointment in his eyes cut me deeper than any words could. "How could you do this, Aaliyah?" he said quietly, almost like he was speaking to himself. "Before marriage? Do you have any idea what this means?" I wanted to explain. I wanted to defend myself, to tell them that I loved him, that we were planning to get married anyway, that this baby was not a mistake, but a blessing. But my voice cracked and all that came out were broken sobs. My mother's face turned red with anger. She accused me of throwing away my future, of bringing shame to the family. My father walked out of the room, unable to even look at me. That night, I locked myself in my room and cried until my body ached. The next day, his parents found out too. He told them because he said it was better coming from him than through whispers. Their reaction was not much different. His mother was furious, pacing the room and asking him how he could be so careless. His father sat still, shaking his head, muttering about responsibility and disappointment. For a while it felt like both sides were against us, like the walls were closing in and we had nowhere to go. I began to feel like a criminal for carrying life inside me. The shame pressed down on me heavier than the morning sickness ever could. But then something strange happened. After days of anger, silence, and arguments, both families began to soften. Maybe it was the reality sinking in. Maybe it was the thought of an innocent child coming into this world. Or maybe they realized that fighting would not change what was already happening. My mother was the first to shift. One morning, she came into my room while I was sitting on the bed with swollen eyes. She sat beside me quietly for a while, then took my hand. Her grip was firm, but her voice was softer than it had been in weeks. "You have made a mistake," she said, "but a child is never a mistake. We cannot undo what has happened, but we can make sure this baby has a proper home. A proper family." Tears ran down my cheeks as I nodded, unable to speak. It was not forgiveness, not yet, but it was a crack in the wall of anger. His parents, too, began to change. His father told him, "If you are man enough to create a child, then you must be man enough to marry her and take responsibility." His mother, though still hurt, started talking about preparations instead of punishments. The conversation shifted from blame to plans. Dates were discussed. Arrangements began to form. Marriage became the only way forward. It was not about romance anymore. It was not about celebration. It was about duty, responsibility, and repairing the broken image in the eyes of society. But for me, the wedding was not the main fear. My fear was him. Every time he held my hand and promised me that he would change, that he would fight his addiction, that he would be the father our baby needed, I wanted to believe him. Yet deep down, I still heard the echoes of the lies I had caught, the late-night whispers to a screen, the secrets he thought I would never find. There were moments when I would wake up in the middle of the night, staring at the ceiling, asking myself if I was doing the right thing. Was I marrying him out of love or out of fear? Fear of raising this child alone, fear of disappointing our families further, fear of being judged by the world. One evening, while the two of us sat in his car outside my parents' house, I broke down again. "Tell me the truth," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Are you really going to change? Or are you just saying that because everyone is forcing us into marriage?" He looked at me, his eyes glassy, and swore that he was serious. He said he would delete everything. He said he would seek help. He promised me that he wanted to be better, not just for me, but for our child. I wanted to believe him so badly that it hurt. But in the corner of my heart, doubt sat like a shadow that refused to leave. Our parents thought the storm was over because the wedding was being arranged. But little did they know, the real storm had not even begun. The weeks leading up to the wedding felt like a blur. Once both sets of parents had accepted the situation, everything moved at lightning speed. Arrangements were made, halls were booked, clothes were stitched, and guest lists were finalized. For a while, it almost felt like the tension had never happened. Everywhere I looked, people were smiling. My mother, who had cried and shouted when she first found out, was suddenly busy with decorations and food menus. She even held my hand one morning and said, "Elia, this is your new beginning. Make the most of it." Her voice still carried traces of disappointment, but there was hope in her eyes. His parents were no different. His mother fussed over flowers and colors, while his father seemed proud again, walking with his head high as if marrying me had fixed his son's image in the community. Everyone wanted to celebrate. Everyone wanted to believe that love had conquered all, and I wanted to believe it too. The day of the wedding finally arrived. The hall was decorated with soft lights that gave everything a golden glow. The music, the laughter, the smell of fresh flowers and food, it was overwhelming. I remember standing in front of the mirror in my white dress, my belly still small enough to hide beneath the fabric, and thinking, maybe everything will be fine. Maybe we can really do this. When I walked down the aisle, I saw him standing there. He looked nervous, but his eyes lit up when he saw me. In that moment, all the pain of the past week seemed to fade. He smiled the way he had when we first met, and my heart fluttered with hope. The ceremony was beautiful. Our parents sat in the front rows, wiping away tears. Our friends clapped, cheered, and took endless photos. Everyone around us seemed genuinely happy, and for the first time in a long time, I let myself feel joy. When the vows were exchanged, he held my hands tightly and promised in front of everyone to stand by me, to protect me, to be a good husband and father. His voice was steady, his eyes locked onto mine. I wanted so desperately to trust him in that moment. I whispered my vows back, tears rolling down my cheeks as I told him I would love him through everything. The reception that followed was loud and full of life. People danced, children ran around, and our parents kept coming over to bless us, reminding us that this was the start of a family, not just a marriage. I forced myself to smile, to laugh, to hug everyone who came up to us. Deep inside, a tiny voice still whispered doubts, but I pushed it away. I told myself that this was a new chapter, that the past was gone. As the night came to an end, we finally made our way to the room prepared for us. The laughter from the hall still echoed faintly in the background as I stepped into the quiet space, my heart pounding. This was supposed to be the beginning of our life as husband and wife. I was nervous but also excited. I had dreamed of this moment, being held, feeling safe, starting our journey together. He smiled at me, kissed my forehead, and told me to rest. I changed into something simple, washed my face, and lay down on the bed, waiting for him to join me. My heart beat faster as the minutes passed. I wanted to feel close to him, to erase all the pain of the last few months with one night of love and reassurance. But instead, something else happened. I must have dozed off for a little while because when I opened my eyes, the room was dark except for the glow of his phone screen. He was sitting at the edge of the bed, hunched over, his face lit by the cold blue light. At first, I thought he was just scrolling through messages or maybe checking on something important. But then I heard the faint sounds, the kind of sounds I could never mistake after what I had already discovered. My heart stopped. I pushed myself up slowly, my throat tightening. And there it was, right in front of me on our wedding night, his addiction. The same addiction he had sworn to leave behind. The same addiction that had broken me weeks before. He was not with me. He was not holding me. He was not cherishing the beginning of our marriage. Instead, he was glued to that screen, to those strangers, to that empty world that stole him away from me. I sat there quietly, my chest heavy with a pain I could not even put into words. I felt invisible. I felt worthless. I felt like I had just married a man who was not mine, and maybe never would be. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I turned away before he could see. I lay back down, pretending to sleep, because I could not face him. I could not bear the confrontation again, not on this night. As I closed my eyes, a single thought echoed in my mind like a curse. If this is how our marriage begins, how will it ever survive? And with that, I cried silently into the pillow while my new husband sat just a few feet away, lost in a world where I did not exist. The morning after our wedding should have been the happiest moment of my life. Instead, I woke up with a heavy chest, pretending to be asleep while my husband quietly slipped his phone under the pillow as if nothing had happened. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask him why he had chosen that world over me on our very first night as husband and wife. But I stayed silent, holding everything inside, because I was afraid of ruining the fragile happiness that everyone else believed we had. For a few days, I tried to ignore it. I convinced myself that maybe it had just been one last slip. Maybe the stress of the wedding had triggered him. Maybe now things would change. But deep down, I knew. I saw the way he guarded his phone. I saw the late-night glow of his screen. I heard the faint sounds when he thought I was asleep. The addiction was still there, stronger than his promises. Finally, I broke. One evening after dinner, I gathered the courage to confront him. My hands were trembling, my voice shaking, but I could not hold it in any longer. "I saw you," I said quietly. "On our wedding night. I saw what you were doing. You told me you would stop. You promised me you would change. Why are you still lying to me?" He froze. His fork clattered against the plate. His eyes widened, then quickly narrowed. "You are imagining things, Elia," he said sharply. "You are making something out of nothing." The words cut me like a knife. "Do not lie to me," I snapped, tears welling up. "I am not blind. I know what I saw. I know what I hear at night. Stop treating me like a fool." His face turned red, and for the first time his voice rose in anger. "You think I do not love you? You think I do not want this marriage to work? You are wrong. You are exaggerating. You are twisting everything. You are the one who is lying, Elia." His words shattered me. To be accused of lying about something that was destroying me inside felt like betrayal on top of betrayal. I broke down, sobbing, my voice trembling as I shouted back, "I am carrying your child. I am giving you everything I have left. Do you think it is easy for me to say these things? I am not lying. I am begging you to tell me the truth." The room fell silent. He stood there, his chest heaving, his fists clenched. For a long moment he said nothing. Then slowly his shoulders slumped. His face softened and he looked away. "You are right," he whispered. "I cannot stop. I have tried, but I cannot. It has been with me for years, long before you came into my life. It is like a chain I cannot break." Hearing him admit it should have brought relief, but instead it broke me even more. His confession was not a promise of change. It was a surrender. It was him saying that I was competing with something stronger than me, stronger than our love, stronger than our future. That night I cried again, but this time my tears were different. They were not just from pain, but from a determination forming inside me. I loved him. I hated what he was doing, but I loved him too much to give up. I could not walk away, not yet. Not when we had a child on the way. Not when there was still a chance, no matter how small, to save him. The next morning I made a decision. I picked up my phone and started searching. I typed words I never thought I would. Addiction specialists near me. Therapy for pornography addiction. Support for partners. That is when I found a doctor. His name was Dr. Michael Grant, a clinical psychologist who had spent years helping men trapped in the same cycle my husband was caught in. He was not just any therapist. He specialized in compulsive behaviors, the kind that eat away at trust in relationships. My heart pounded as I read through his website, the testimonials of broken families trying to heal, men admitting their struggles, wives standing by them. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. But I also felt fear. I could not tell anyone. Not my parents, not his parents, not even my closest friend. To the world, we were the happy newlyweds, starting a family, building a future. Nobody knew about the darkness we carried behind closed doors, and I was determined to keep it that way. His addiction was not just his secret anymore. It was ours, and I would guard it, because I loved him, and because I was terrified of what would happen if the world found out. That afternoon, while he was at work, I dialed the number. My hand shook as I listened to the ringing. When the receptionist answered, I almost hung up, but somehow I found the strength to say, I need help. My husband, he has an addiction. They scheduled an appointment. Just hearing the date and time felt like a lifeline. When I told him later that night, I expected anger, denial, maybe even rage. But instead, he went quiet. He sat on the couch, staring at the floor, his jaw clenched. For a long time, he said nothing. Then finally, he whispered, "Do you really think a doctor can fix me?" "I do not know," I admitted, tears spilling down my face. "But I know I cannot. I have tried and I am breaking. Please do this for me, for us, for our baby." He closed his eyes, and for a brief second, I thought I saw shame flicker across his face. He nodded slowly, almost reluctantly. "All right," he said. "I will go." It was not victory. It was not healing. But it was a step. And in that moment, I clung to that step like it was my only chance to save the man I loved. Little did I know, the real battle was only just beginning. The months of my pregnancy felt like a storm. There were days when I hated him, when I felt broken beyond repair, when I wanted to walk away with my unborn child and never look back. But there were also days when I saw glimpses of the man I fell in love with, the man who made me laugh, the man who held me when I cried, the man who swore that he would fight for us. Then, finally, the day arrived. The labor was long, painful, and exhausting. I remember gripping the hospital bed, tears streaming down my face as he held my hand tighter than ever before. He kept whispering, "You are strong, Ilya. You can do this. I am here. I am not going anywhere." For those hours, nothing else mattered. Not the addiction, not the lies, not the pain. It was just us, and the life about to enter the world. When I finally heard the cry of our baby, my heart cracked wide open. They placed him on my chest, tiny and fragile, his little fists curled, his eyes blinking against the light. I sobbed uncontrollably, overwhelmed by love I had never known before. "It is a boy," the nurse said, gently smiling. I looked at my husband. His eyes were wet with tears, his lips trembling as he leaned closer. "Our son," he whispered. "Aaliyah, we have a son. We named him Harrison." The moment my husband held him in his arms, I saw something change in his eyes. A softness, a depth, a realization. He kissed Harrison's forehead and said, "I am a father now. I will change. I swear I will change." For a while, I let myself believe it. He was there in the hospital every moment, helping the nurses, holding my hand, feeding Harrison when I was too weak to sit up. He looked at our son with a love so pure it made me forget the darkness. I thought, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the moment he finally breaks free. But addiction does not vanish overnight. A few weeks after we came home, I noticed the signs again. The late-night scrolling, the secrecy, the way his eyes sometimes looked distant, almost hollow, even while holding our baby. I confronted him, and at first he snapped, angry that I would accuse him at a time when he was trying. But later, I found him sitting alone in the living room, head in his hands, tears dripping onto the floor. "You do not understand," he whispered when I sat beside him. "I hate myself for this. I look at Harrison and I swear I want to be better, but then I fall again. I am failing as a husband. I am failing as a father. Maybe you and Harrison would be better off without me." My heart shattered. I reached out, pulled him into my arms, and held him as tightly as I could. "Do not say that," I cried. "You are his father. You are my husband. We need you. I need you, but you cannot fight this alone. Stay in the treatment. Stay with Dr. Grant. One day, you will break free, but not if you give up." He broke down completely in my arms that night. For the first time, I realized he was not just weak. He was wounded. He was a prisoner inside his own mind, fighting chains I could not see. And he needed me to stay, not to fix him, but to remind him that he was worth fixing. Weeks turned into months. Therapy sessions with Dr. Grant became a routine. Sometimes my husband came home hopeful, sharing what he had learned, talking about triggers, about the science of addiction, about the small victories he was making. Other times he came home defeated, angry at himself, confessing that he had slipped again. It was not a straight path. It was not clean or easy. But slowly, very slowly, I began to see a change. The slips became less frequent. The late-night glow of his phone disappeared more often. He started replacing those hours with holding Harrison, reading to him, rocking him to sleep. One evening, when Harrison was about 6 months old, I walked into the nursery and saw a sight that made me break down in silent tears. My husband was sitting in the rocking chair, our son asleep on his chest, while he whispered softly, "Daddy is going to be better for you. I promise. Daddy is not giving up." In that moment, I knew that love was not about perfection. It was about persistence. It was about showing up, even broken, and trying again and again. Months later, during a session with Dr. Grant, my husband shared something that made me proud. He said, "I used to believe I could never change, but now I believe I can, because my wife never left me and my son needs me. I do not want to waste another second on a screen when I have everything real in my arms." The journey was not over. It would never be perfect. There would always be temptations, moments of weakness, and scars from the past. But there was also growth, healing, and a future worth fighting for. Looking back, I realized something important. Love does not mean ignoring pain, and forgiveness does not mean forgetting betrayal. Love is standing in the fire with someone and helping them walk out, even when you are burned too. Forgiveness is not about excusing their wrongs, but about choosing to see their effort to be better. The night I caught him again after the wedding, I thought our marriage was doomed. But today, when I see him playing with Harrison, laughing, building blocks, tickling his tiny feet, I know we made the right choice to fight. This story is not just about addiction. It is about resilience, about the strength we sometimes do not know we have until we are tested. It is about remembering that healing is never instant, but it is possible. If you are listening to my story right now and you are fighting battles in silence, whether your own or the battles of someone you love, I want you to know this. Do not give up. Healing is not a straight line. People relapse. People fall. But what matters is getting back up, seeking help, and believing that tomorrow can be better than today. For me, for my husband, and for our son Harrison, tomorrow finally started to look brighter when we stopped pretending and started fighting together. And that is the ending of my story. A hopeful ending. Because even though scars remain, love and persistence created something stronger than pain, a family that refused to break. Life taught me that love is not about perfection. It is about standing beside someone even when they are fighting their darkest battles. Addiction, mistakes, and broken trust can shake any relationship. But patience, hope, and the courage to forgive can rebuild what feels lost. Healing takes time, but if hearts choose to stay together, even the deepest wounds can turn into the strongest bonds. Never forget, sometimes the hardest trials lead to the most beautiful endings. If my story touched your heart, then do not forget to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more stories. Your support means more than you know.